Hello, I'm here to talk today through the AP Statistics problem from the 2008 exam, question number 1. This question, let me get this framed up here. This question goes through the idea of breakfast cereals and the amount of sugar that are in breakfast cereals. So they do a random sample. They randomly select 60 boxes of different types of cereal, and then they break those up. So a student noticed that the side panels of some of the cereal boxes showed sugar content based on a 1 cup serving. So 1 cup servings, which you can see down here, they have separated those cereals in, by themselves. Others showed sugar content based on 3/4 cup servings. So they had the 3/4 cup servings separated out as well. So many of the cereal boxes with the side panels showed 3/4 cup servings were the ones that appealed to young children. And the student wondered whether there might be some difference in the sugar content of the cereals that showed different size servings on their side panels. So this might be a situation where the cereal companies are kind of trying to trick the parents or trick the people buying the cereal into thinking that they're healthier than they really are. So instead of using a full cup as 1 serving, they're using 3/4 cup as a serving. So that's a lesser amount of cereal, which means that the sugar content in that would be less, right? So would be less than a 1 cup of it, right? So when you compare them like this, it kind of looks like the sugar content in the 3/4 cup serving cereals is less than the other ones. Wouldn't really, if you had the same measurement for serving size, that might tell a different story, which when you keep reading through this, you're going to see that we got 29 cereals here for the 1 cup. We got 31 for the 3/4 cup. And you're going to see on the back that if you read through that question, you are going to compare these after you adjust the 3/4 into a full cup serving size. So that comes later. All right, but for now, let's just read the question down here and see what we have. So just take it as is to begin with. Don't get too involved to begin with. Write a few sentences to compare the distributions of sugar content per serving for the 2 serving sizes of cereals. Now, things you got to look at. Now, this is always, if you see compare the distributions, distributions is one thing. Usually you'll see the word compare and you'll see the word distributions in there. But this is the big tip off for the big 3. Like, you should immediately be thinking center, shape, and spread. Center, shape, and spread. There's just no way around that. You got to be really have that in the back of your head, ready to, in your toolbox to be used at any time. Okay, so we're comparing these 2 distributions. A lot of times you'll see, if it's just one thing, you'll see the word describe the distribution, right? And it's still the big 3 though, describe or compare. But since we have 2 things, we're going to be comparing them, yeah? Okay, so big 3, I had to cover my center. So I would talk about how the median of this one is at about maybe 12.5 or 13. And the median of my 3/4 cup serving size cereals is right about 10 grams of sugar per serving, right? This is per serving. So I'd compare the medians, use numbers. Like, it's okay to name what they are, but it's actually better if you make a difference. So I'd say, the median sugar content in grams for the 1 cup serving cereals is higher than the 3/4 cup serving cereals by about 3 grams of sugar, right? So that's the median, that's the center. Now we have a spread. You can talk about the range, or you can talk about the IQR. Those are 2 things to look at. The range of sugar content for the 1 cup serving cereals is about 19 or 20, and for the 3/4 cup servings is about 10. So that's a difference of, let's say it's 9 more, right? So this has a range that's 9 grams of sugar higher than the other one. So it has a larger range. There's some cereals that don't have very much sugar, and cereals that have a lot of sugar is what it looks like. Okay, and this one seems to be more compact for its serving size, right? For the 3/4 cup serving size. Okay, and then we also have shape. This one, since the median is right in the middle of it, you're going to want to say this, unless the whisker is really long or something, you probably want to say, if this is right in the middle, you want to say it's symmetric. So the 3/4 cup serving size cereals are symmetric, has a symmetric shape. And on this one, you can see the median is a little bit to the right of the box, which means the lower 50% is much more spread out than the upper 50%. So you want to say this one is skewed to the lower numbers, okay? And so we covered the center with the median, we covered the spread with the range. Again, you could use the IQR if you want. And then we also covered the shape of it, symmetric and skewed to the lower numbers. Let's check out the scoring guide to see what they said. Okay, I wrote it again, big 3, center, shape, spread, that's what you want. Now you're going to notice when looking at this scoring guide, they didn't use numbers. They described everything I just said, but they didn't say numbers, right? It says the median is larger than the other median. It says the range is larger and the IQR is also larger. And then it does go on to say that this is symmetric and then the other one is skewed towards the lower numbers. So they said everything I said, they just didn't put the numbers in it. I recommend the numbers. It really just shows that it's being more clear and it's more precise, and you're going to get more credit for that. Sometimes they actually want you to say the numbers. Sometimes they don't require it. So to err on the side of caution, it's better to report the numbers along with it. Now what they don't want you to just say, the median of this is 13, the median of this is 10, the minimum of this is 1, and the minimum of this is 19. They don't want you to regurgitate the numbers. That's not what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be comparing them. So you have to use what we call comparative language. So you'll see here they use the word larger and larger range, larger IQR. So you're using what we call comparative language. Larger, smaller, twice as big, half the size, right? Comparative language. That's very, very important, okay? Don't just spout off, like relist the numbers. They don't want a list of numbers. They want a comparison. That's very, very important. Okay, let's look at the next problem, next piece. Okay, so when you flip it over onto the next piece, after analyzing the box plots on the preceding page, the student decided that instead of comparison of sugar content per recommended serving, right, because it's a little confounding, right, when you have 1 cup and 3/4 cup servings, it's hard to compare those, right, because they're different serving sizes. So it might be more appropriate to compare sugar content for equal size servings, yes. To compare the amount of sugar in serving sizes of 1 cup each, the amount of sugar in each of the cereals showing 3/4 cup servings on the side panels was multiplied by 4/3. Why 4/3? Well, because 3/4 times 4/3 is 1. They want to make it into a 1 cup sugar amount, right? What's the sugar amount in 1 cup of that cereal, right? So the bottom box plot shown below displays sugar content in grams. So it's the same idea, but now this has been adjusted into grams of sugar in 1 cup of cereal, even though it's the 3/4 cup category, right? This is just a category. So this really is 1 cup. You can see here it says per cup, where on the other side it said per serving. Right? Reading those scales is important. Okay, so what's the question then? So what new information about sugar content do the box plots provide? New information. Well, we can see now that the median is now higher, or slightly higher. It's about the same, but a little bit higher, maybe, than the 1 cup cereals, where before it was less than. I can also see that the range of this has been increased. Before it was kind of a smaller range of about 10, and now we have a range of about 17. So the range increased. Why did it increase by that much? Because we multiplied by 4/3. How big did the median get? Well, if we multiply every single data point in a set by a number like 4/3, the median will increase by that same scale factor, right? So whatever our median was before, And these are those good points I was talking about. The median before was 10. If you multiply that by 4/3, right, 40 over 3, you're going to get right in that 13, right? So 13 and a third or whatever, right? So that's where that comes from, why that median changed the way it did. And you're supposed to know these things. Okay, the range before, like I said, was like 10. So you take 10 times 4/3. And again, the range now becomes like 13, right? Well, that's more than that. 5. Should be about the same. My numbers might be off a little, but the range is increasing by 4/3. Why? Because the small numbers increase a little, but big numbers increase a lot when you multiply them by a number, right? So the spread of this gets stretched the same amount as your multiplier. Okay, so the first graph is the same, didn't change at all. This one, the median increased, the range increased, right? The shape stayed the same. So what you should be talking about here, what new information do you have? Well, now the median is larger. It's about the same as the other one, but a little larger now. The range is much larger than what it used to be. So you can see that they both have large sugar content. In fact, the sugars that we thought were kind of geared towards children, kind of really, have more sugar content in general than the other ones do. This one, it's possible to get some cereals that have very low sugar content. This isn't too bad either, but in general, these are higher than this one is, right? So let's see what the scoring guide said. Distribution of sugar content in the cereals that list 1 cup serving sizes remains the same. So that really never changed, right? The first graph. No transformations were made to that. There's a noticeable shift towards the higher sugar content for the cereals that list 3/4 cup servings after the transformation was applied. Okay, so they now have similar medians, which we talked about, and the two distributions now show similar maximum values, and the variability, so the spread, right, the range of the 3/4 cup serving size increased by this factor when the transformation was applied. You can just, say it was increased by this, it increased. Okay, that's the new information you have. Last question. Based on the box plots shown above on this page, how would you expect the mean amounts of sugar per cup to compare for the different recommended serving sizes? Expect the mean amount. So now instead of median, they're talking about mean. So what we have to look at, this is another one of those little topics that this is getting at, right? It's getting at, do you know how the mean and the median compare to each other on depending on the shape of a graph? So on this 1 cup serving size, we said it was skewed to the lower numbers. If something's skewed, that means the mean will also be skewed in the same direction. So I expect on the first set here that the mean will be a little bit less down in here somewhere. I don't know what it is, but I know it's going to be less than the median up here of like 12 or 13. It's going to be less than that, maybe 11 or maybe even 10. It's possible. Okay, for the one that's symmetric, if you have a symmetric set, you expect the mean and the median to be about the same. So I expect the mean to be right here pretty close to where this 13 is, maybe the 12, well, pretty close to the 13. Okay, so they want you to say like, well, I know the mean of the 1 cup serving size cereals is going to be less than the mean of the 3/4 cup serving cereals because this mean and median will be close because it's symmetric, where this mean will be pulled closer to the smaller numbers because it's skewed to the smaller numbers. Okay, so that's what they're looking for. And let's see what they kind of have here. Yeah, we expect the means to be different by the symmetry, right? They're looking at the symmetry. We would expect the mean and the median to be the same for the 3/4 cup. Because the other one is skewed to the left, we'd expect the mean to be lower, right? So they have similar medians, but the mean of the 1 cup serving size will be lower than the mean of the 3/4 cup, right? So that's exactly what we said. So there you go. Good problem because it has just basic descriptions. It uses the big 3. You have to compare and use comparative language. It also gets into the idea of transformations when you multiply by something, or maybe when you add a number to a data set, what happens. And it also touches on the idea of, what's the difference between mean and median, and how do those relate to each other depending on the symmetry or the skewness of the data. So really good points and really good problem.